Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the novel reading from White Album 2. We are currently reading Volume 1. Last time was the final rehearsal of the Light Music Club before the school festival. So the day has finally arrived. Very, very exciting. They're going to grab a quick lunch on the way to the school, and then that's it. Then it's time to perform. We've finally made it to this moment. Let's go ahead and continue and see how it goes. The fact that it took us further time to hit upon the obvious solution, just dressing in normal clothes and pretending to be visitors to the festival, was undoubtedly because we were all so high on that music that our brains couldn't wrap themselves around anything else. As Setsuna said, we had just spent an extraordinarily enjoyable 24 hours together, the three of us bound together by music. We really couldn't help it. The school festival at Hojo High School had nothing on the sheer scale of that of Hojo University, on which it was modeled. The university festival pulled enough of a turnout to draw reporters for local TV channels, but while it was clear that a simple high school festival couldn't compare to that, the fact that both festivals were held on the same days proved helpful. The university and the high school were practically right next to each other, so some people who had come for the university festival would accidentally wander over to the high school instead. Or they might be summoned over by various means, and every year we managed to attract a decent crowd. School festivals in Japan, I know they just sound like these fun, these kids are putting on a little show, these kids are putting on a little maid cafe. They take it super, super seriously. I mean, they put months and months of work into this, so these are very impressive. Really, really cool. And so, in the midst of our little fraction of the university's crowd, hey, what about this? Absolutely not. Then how about this one? Are you joking? Then how about... Voices were spilling out of music room number 2. I stood out in the hallway with Takeya, listening. Hey, Takeya, when did you have time to go get these outfits? Well, I had spare time since I was just programming. Not bitter at all. Takeya laughed, plainly enjoying himself. We had arrived at school just before 2. As Toma had pointed out, the big event was yet to come. But before that, there was another event. This one unanticipated. Yes, right at this moment, Setsuna and Toma were trying on outfits. What outfits? Their outfits for the stage. And with those two about to be on stage, I couldn't possibly not get them some costumes. You're the impossible one. Why do they need costumes? They're not Yanagihara. Why do you have to say that? What? Just because they're not this terrible troll girl doesn't mean they can't dress up and look nice? I could feel another unpleasant memory threatening to return. What are you talking about? I know you want to see the two of them playing in real outfits, not just their uniforms. Well, yes, you're right, but of course, those two would be plenty capable of exciting an audience, even in their uniforms. That said, if we were going to be drawing attention anyway, we might as well throw all of our power both into our performance and our looks, as if to shout to the audience, "How's this?" Still, it had already been about 20 minutes since the two of them, and Io, to assist, had vanished into music room number 2. There were 45 minutes left until showtime. I'm so glad Io is helping out and being friendly rather than being super angry, because honestly, she deserves to be angry. She deserves to, if she was giving Setsuna the cold shoulder for a long time, I wouldn't blame her because Setsuna totally ditched her responsibilities. But she's a good friend. She's very understanding. Oh, by the way, I picked out a nice, boring suit for you, Haruki. I don't need to stand out, so that's fine with me, but... Maybe I'll go with this one. How about this for you, Toma-san? You expect me to wear this? Yeah, I definitely think that would be a nice contrast with Setsuna's. How much longer is this going to take? I mean, it's pretty well known that girls take a while getting dressed. This was no time to be laughing. Really a shame, though. We've got Setsuna Ogiso and Kazu Satoma getting dressed in there. Why does the door have to be locked? Damn it. Why? Because Takeya Iizuka was here, obviously. What a pervert. What a little perv. Man, they could let us peek a little at least. I can hear what you're saying, criminal. At that moment, I heard Io's voice on the other side saying, "If you'd like to die, I'd be happy to open the door." Haruki, there are some times when a man just has to take the plunge, even knowing it's a trap. Stay where you are and shut up. Finally, with half an hour remaining, Io opened the door and said, "You can come in now." Wait, stay out, Kitara. Toma-san, you need to know when to give up. You can't tell me to stay out with this much time left. If you two had decided a little... I strode in, starting to voice my objections, and a little quicker. Lost the ability to speak completely. On one hand, a perfectly form-fitting white dress with an audaciously leg-bearing pure white miniskirt. On the other hand, a black miniskirt and black stockings, but with only enough fabric up top to cover the chest. A truly gravure-like outfit that inevitably drew the eye to itself. Whew! What a sight to behold. What a beautiful sight to behold. Haruki, in this moment, is one of the luckiest men in the world. Setsuna in white, Toma in sharp black. Their contrast was so thoroughly perfect that I couldn't find any words. Meanwhile, our club chief managed to find something to say immediately. "Whoa, you two look incredible. I gotta say, I really picked well with these outfits." "Shut it, Takeya. You two do look really great though, dang." Io nodded approvingly. "I'm a little embarrassed to be wearing something like this, but I think it's cute. What do you think, Haruki-kun?" Setsuna tilted her head at me. I still couldn't find anything to say. "You're aware that we're almost out of time? Takeya, why didn't you consult me about this?" All these thoughts that had composed my brain had completely vanished. I mean, this was completely unfair. Setsuna Ogiso and Kazu Satoma dressed like this, standing right here in front of me. The best way I could describe it, with full awareness of how corny it would sound, was like a lovely snow white angel next to an aloof jet black demon. Well, that's kind of rude to say. I don't think that's very fair, calling Setsuna an angel and Kazusa a demon. As I stared at each of them in turn, in a daze, Toma turned bright red and yelled at me. "Kitara, what are you gawking at, you creep?" "Come on, even Haruki's gotta get an eyeful of this." "Shut up, cheap. You're also a creep. Pulling out a bunch of shit like this. What are you gonna do if I catch another cold?" "It looks very good on you though, Toma-san." I'm not in the same position as you, Ogiso. You're the vocalist. The audience will be focusing on you." "Don't worry. Once the show starts, plenty of people will be focusing on you too." "Oh yeah, absolutely," Io agreed. "That's not funny. Screw it. I'm playing in my uniform." No. We've come this far. You have to embarrass yourself right along with me, Toma-san." They're super embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. Those outfits are so revealing, but they're so pretty. No damn way. Toma turned her attack on me. "Kitahara, for Christ's sake, say something." "Oh, you also want to hear Haruki-kun's impressions, Toma-san?" "No, I want him to say I don't have to wear this ridiculous outfit." "Toma?" I finally spoke up. "I'm sorry, but That's impossible. Huh? There, see? Even Kitahara thinks it would be weird for me to wear this. No, not that. It would be impossible for you not to wear it. Toma looked baffled for a moment. See? Just like I said. What do you think, Haruki-kun? Does it look good? This time, I was able to give Setsuna a decisive nod. The fact that it took him that long to kind of speak his mind, I know that they say like, oh, jaw dropped, oh, speechless. But that's so rude. Never, never, never do that to a girl. Just straight up be like, wow, beautiful. At least, come on. It does. You both look amazing. I can't allow you not to wear these outfits on stage. This was perfect. Beyond perfect. The show was guaranteed to be a massive hit now. Your eyes look weird right now, Kitahara. They're a little bloodshot. Let them say what they would. When I saw something good, I said so. Right now, at least. On top of that, I was realizing anew exactly what an outstanding duo I had managed to form a band with. With you two looking like that, I almost feel like I'll be in the way. No, Haruki-kun, you have to be on stage with us too. The Light Music Club is the three of us. And of course, Toma-san will be wearing this outfit. Then what am I... Takeya, our phantom fourth member, muttered something to himself, but Toma passed it by completely. I told you, I'm not going to. You're still saying that? Haruki-kun, would you say something to Toma-san, please? Please, Toma, play the show in that outfit. Hell no, I'd just embarrass myself. If you don't, I'm not going on that stage. I'm not interested in being the only one embarrassed if I mess up my guitar solo. That doesn't make any sense. You don't get to declare something like that. Then stop declaring that you're not going to wear the outfit, Toma-san. Settled. Well, wait, Hokiso. Nope. Come on, Haruki-kun, we agreed we look good in these. Setsuna chuckled. What have I done to deserve this? Toma, perhaps having realized that she was no match for Setsuna at this moment, slumped her shoulders in resignation. I felt a little bad for her, but I wasn't about to back down either. I wasn't about to tell the one in question herself, but I wanted the whole school to see how amazing Toma was. You know, Haruki sometimes acts like a boyfriend that wants to show off his girlfriend. And he says this about the both of them. He wants everyone to see Setsuna and how amazing she is and how true to herself she is. And he wants everyone to see Toma and be like, wow, she's beautiful, she's so nice, she's amazing. But the thing is, he's not either of their boyfriends. Although they both clearly want him to be. In the music department, she was avoided. In the general education department, she was an exceptionally poor student. But I knew what a truly good person she was. What an impressive person she was. The past few days had demonstrated that all the more strongly. So, I wanted to do something. I wanted to show that Toma was superior to those who had derided and dismissed her. Of course, the performance on its own would be more than sufficient to put that across, but I wanted to boast a little over how astounding our friend was. This outfit would serve that purpose instantly. I mean, everyone would be like, wow, she's sexy. That's about all that it's gonna prove. And so, in this particular moment, I could offer Takeya a little bit of praise. Io threw a glance at the clock. Shoot! Look at the time. You guys need to get ready. Oh, hey, Haruki, you need to get into your suit. Come on, strip. There's no time. What? Hey, whoa, don't pull my clothes off. At least not my pants. Setsuna was here. And Toma. And Io, for that matter. Haruki-kun. Kitahara, you... Setsuna was covering her face, peeking out through the gaps between her fingers, whilst Toma was staring outright, fury in her face. Wait, why did they have to look at me? Clearly, they both wanted to look at him. I mean, Setsuna's acting like she doesn't, but she's still peeking. Tomo's just straight on staring. Even though she's staring angrily, she's still staring. This club is completely impossible, huh? Io gave a strange little sigh. Could she not just stop Takeya, please? And while this foolishness was going on, the countdown to the big moment continued. The final minutes before the show, it's so exciting. Damn it, I'm late. Everyone else had gone on ahead while I was changing into my suit, and I was running behind, so I shouldered my guitar and hurried toward the gym. As I left the building, I suddenly realized how many people were here. Maybe they had wandered over from the university, but there seemed to be a bit of an imbalance in terms of gender and age range. I wonder. Probably gonna be mostly guys. And evidently, they too were heading for the gym. On top of that, I was hearing a lot of the phrases running late and Miss Hojo High. Were all of them university students here to see Setsuna? Sheesh. Setsuna really was enormously powerful. It's hard for me to even imagine this, and I know it's a big trope in anime, like, oh, the school idol, oh, the most popular girl in school. Like, there were popular girls in school when I was there, but there was no one where people, even from the local university, would be like, oh my god, she's so beautiful. I wonder if that really happens. Anyway, there was no time for musing, so I took off running. Then I heard, I don't understand. Why do I have to watch? A certain someone's voice, which caused me to stiffen up instinctively. You're still complaining, Tomo. You know you brought this on yourself. Well, I'm the one who came up with the idea of singing with the Light Music Club to get attention. Why did Setsuna Ogiso, of all people, have to be my replacement? Because she's also in the contest, Tomo? Well, their singing will probably be lousy. I'll make sure to laugh nice and loud. What a jerk. She's so rude. Yeah, pretty sure that would lose you votes. God, look how crowded it is. I'm glad we got seats saved for us. Wish I hadn't heard that. So, Yanagihara was here. I was still a little bit anxious, but there was nothing to be done about that. Say, you there. Ugh! Sorry. Yes? Someone had suddenly called out to me, taking me completely by surprise. I hurriedly turned toward the voice, where I found a woman I didn't know. Are you a student here? I'm looking for the gymnasium. Could you tell me where to go? Oh, I guessed it might be a bit rude to say, just follow the flow of people. Here, I'll show you. Sorry to trouble you. Oh, not at all. I'm heading there myself. Oh? That guitar. Are you about to perform? Ah, well, you must be in a hurry then. I'm sorry I stopped you. Go right along. Don't worry about me. She looked to be about 30, and something about her face, with its small smile, was familiar somehow, like I'd seen it before. No, that wasn't remotely possible. Why would you brush it off as not remotely possible? I mean, maybe you saw her at the grocery store. Maybe you saw her, like, your neighbor or a schoolmate's, It could be anybody. Sorry. If you don't mind, if you follow along with the flow of people here, you'll end up at the gym. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. She gave another small smile. Best of luck with your performance. Ah, yes, thank you very much. I made a dash for the gym. This was no time to be worrying about university students or Tomo Yanagihara. I checked my watch. There were less than 20 minutes left. 20 minutes! It feels like we've come so far to get to this moment, so it's really exciting that it's finally here. You're late, Kitahara. Thanks for the warm welcome, Toma. I met up with everyone else waiting in the wings of the stage and gave a small sigh. The band right before ours was in the middle of their performance. Almost time. Haruki-kun, did you look at the audience? Yeah, when I got here. There are a ton of people. The gym was laid out with all the folding chairs that were available, but it was already almost full. At this rate, some people might have to stand. Right? And they're all here to see us, Setsuna murmured. Thoughts of what happened at the rehearsal must still be lingering in her mind. With a glance at Setsuna's condition, Toma threw a meaningful look my way. I understood. Setsuna, are you nervous? I asked gently. I would be lying if I said I weren't, she replied, after seeming to think for a moment. But I'll be okay. It's completely different from the nervousness I felt at the rehearsal, and I'm not alone now. As she smiled, telling me there was no need to worry, her face seemed genuinely unclouded. That's the thing. Her stage frightness wasn't necessarily like paralysis over people watching her. It was, I'm all alone and everyone's going to see the real me and I don't have anyone to support me. That's the thing. Now that they're here, it should be okay. All right, let's do this. Yep, we've come this far. There's nothing else for us to do, Toma said, finishing Setsuna's sentence. So exciting. Toma-san. Can you do it, Ogiso? Of course. My heart's racing a little, which I think is understandable, but apart from that, I'm feeling perfect. The moment Setsuna smiled, applause erupted from the audience. Ah, sounds like they're done, Io muttered. As the curtain lowered, the previous band returned to the wings. Light Music Club, get ready! At the committee members' cue, we all looked at one another and nodded. All right, let's get set up. At our leader's command, we carried our instruments onto the stage. Since the synths, that's kind of hard to say, since the synths were attached to Takeya's laptop, which he would be operating from the wings, that just meant my guitar and Toma's keyboard. Setsuna fussed with the height of the microphone stand for a moment before Toma calmly pointed out, "You can just hold it while you sing, can't you?" To which Setsuna laughed and agreed. Oh man, could you imagine your hand shaking while you're holding the mic? I'm starting to get nervous just reading it. After plugging my guitar into the rental PA, I hoisted it up and strummed a few chords, checking its sound. Its reverberations blared out from the speakers to either side of the stage, and I shuddered reflexively. Getting spooked? Toma smirked at me. No, of course not. To be honest, I was a bit scared, but if that had been enough to stop me here, I never would have revived the Light Music Club. As Setsuna tested the microphone, cheers and screams erupted on the other side of the curtain. Can you imagine just going, and then everyone's like, oh my god! That's so funny. Everyone is so excited for Setsuna. Wow. Even without looking, you can tell there are loads of people out there. I mean, we did already know that. Takeya sighed a little as he replied to Io's remark. Whew. Okay, I'm all ready. Me too. Anytime. The white and black princesses looked at me and nodded. Okay, should we go for it then? Oh, Chief, do you have a word or two? Me? Not really. I'm only the leader in name anyway. Haruki, you should say something. This is your Light Music Club. Yeah, I guess, but... As I hemmed and hawed, Setsuna said, why not Toma-san, with her abundance of experience? The only person who's used to doing this. The only person who's used to performing. Of course, Toma-san's going to be the one to say something. Me? All right, just one thing. She cleared her throat lightly. All of you are completely underestimating the music. A look of bewilderment spread through the group of us. When you broke up a month before the festival, you had already failed. That was because the chief underestimated it. When you reformed it, Kitahara, you underestimated it even more. But Takeya and I reacted in unison. We haven't practiced nearly enough. We're ragged because we haven't slept. And adding another song the day before the show? There's only so much bullshit you can pull. In every possible way, you have underestimated this. There's no other way to put it. I didn't really have anything to respond with, but why did we need to hear this right now? What a downer. What a bummer right before the show. Maybe they shouldn't have asked her. Then Setsuna smiled and replied, "But, I think we're going to make it somehow. Is that also underestimating it?" Setsuna. Toma gave a small nod. Unfortunately, I feel the same way, which means we're all underestimating it, which works out perfectly, don't you think? The smile that came to Toma's face was very faint, and yet she looked as though she could not possibly be enjoying herself more. Toma. All right then, let's put everything we have into underestimating this music. Toma smiled wryly and shrugged at my attempt at a cheer. I'm counting on you three. Just leave the synths to me. I'll be watching from the wings. You guys are going to kill this. Takeya and Io returned to the side and informed the committee member that we were ready to begin. Now, for our next act, the Light Music Club. At this announcement, a roar arose that completely eclipsed that of moments before. Here we go. Sorry for bringing in such a huge crowd, you two. Setsuna smiled impishly. Well, if you're confident enough to say that, I suppose we won't have any problems. You two, if you get lost, just listen to me. I'll pull you along to the end. I'll get you back in rhythm. Toma looked at Setsuna and at me. At that moment, my heart truly understood. I was standing here, doing this, because in the past month, I had used up my entire lifetime's worth of luck. Maybe the god of music had shown me some favor on a whim. That was another possibility. Of course, that god was actually a goddess. Oh my god, he just called Toma a goddess. Oh, I got goosebumps. That is crazy praise. That is beautiful. Oh, right. My mom said she would be here with Takahito to watch the show. God, your family is so... Toma shook her head as Setsuna winced slightly. I was very glad that these two had become friends. What a weird... Don't say that. Of course her family's going to come watch her. That's not that odd. Both of you, thank you for coming this far, playing along with my selfish idea. Thank you so much. You can say that when we're done. For God's sake, you are hopelessly stupid. Of course, Toma. Of course, she has to throw out those insults in the end. Let's do it. And let's enjoy it as much as we can. This third song is all ours, so we can pour on some extra energy with that one. This is our stage. Once again, the three of us looked each other in the eye. These incredible band members were wasted on me, but I would make it through without holding them back. Okay, let's do it. We nodded and gave Takeya the signal. The plan was to have the intro to White Album start before the curtain opened. Setsuna in the middle of the stage. Toma and me to the left and the right. We all faced forward, staring at the curtain. In the last 3 weeks, we had done everything we could do. I had practiced enough that I could proudly declare it was the greatest effort I had ever put into anything. And that wasn't all. I'd spent nights at my neighbor's house, hurt Miss Hojo High, taken care of Kazusatoma when she was sick, kidnapped Setsuna Ogiso in full Taisho romantic garb. What a life! What a crazy month for this honors student. All of these impossible experiences I had come through were for the sake of the next 20 minutes. I gripped the neck of the guitar. I took a deep breath. And, in the most literal sense, the curtain rose. To be continued in the next volume. Woo! And here we come to the end of our reading. So, let's just quickly read through the contributing people of the book. Author Masaya Tsukishima, born 1985, lives on Mist. Illustrator Takeshi Nakamura. Nakamura-san is the one who's done the illustrations for the game itself. Key illustrator with Aquaplus, usually draws for an adult audience. That's pretty funny. Feeling some nervousness over being given such valuable work. Type B. Main fuel is alcohol. They actually talk about that a lot when you read interviews among a lot of the people working at White Album 2, that Nakamura-san loves alcohol. Illustrator Kenichiro Katsura. Freelance animator. After assisting with the original game, was put in charge of the illustrations for this work. Some designs may have mixed with those of other works, so please be lenient. Ors. Ors is like a person on their knees apologizing. Wow. So the concert is about to begin. They have made it to the final. They've put everything they have into making this final performance theirs. And there we have it. So, lastly, we just have the analysis, which I encourage you to read if you feel. But that will be all for our reading of the light novel. So, thank you so much for being here with me on this reading of White Album 2's light novel series, and I'll be back to you with Volume 2 as it comes out. So, until then, I hope you take care. See you!